So I want to first say that contrary to what Kelly said, I did know what I was getting into, and I love it. This is the greatest feeling in the world, to be here with you guys, to be standing up for what we know to be true. We know it. We can't lie to ourselves. We're not violent. We don't hate people. I'll stand and help you whether you love the government or you love Trump or you love Biden. I don't care. You're just a person just like me. And we are here in this time, and it's time to connect, to unite with people. We don't have time to sit around and care whether who you voted for, care what you wear, care what you don't wear. Hey, we're just people.
I've been standing for political prisoners for 5 years, and I know the extreme risk that is present in America when you exercise your First Amendment rights and you expose corruption.
I would like to make it clear what my intentions were at the hospital on January 29th. My obligation was to uphold my mother's wishes and care for her well-being and to make sure she was safe, as I am also her full-time caregiver. Even after I made multiple calls to the police when I first arrived and was told I was not allowed to be with my mother, they came only when the hospital called. After watching several other visitors walk through the doors of the emergency room to visit their loved ones, I attempted to follow them into the building where I was then assaulted by the police.
I'll remind you, when Jesus entered the temple, he found his father's house had been turned into a den of thieves. He drove out the money changers with whips, and he overturned tables, and he shamed those who violated their position and place of power. Amen. And I think if he walked the earth today, he might say that our hospitals used to be a place of healing for the sick, but it become, many of them, a den of thieves. Amen.
Exactly. They went down there, they did the right thing, okay? They stood up for a lady who wanted to leave the hospital. They stood up, okay? That's what we need in our community. We need more people to do that. They don't need to go to jail, they need an award, okay?
You can't give me the right to be a human being. I'm fine with that right. Now you can keep me from having that if you've got all the policemen and all the jobs on your side.
You may remember I did a video back in February about a medical kidnapping that took place on January 29th of 2021. A link to this video, and as always, all of my sources, is listed in the description below. While you're watching, please help me out by giving me an upvote, sharing this on all of your social media platforms, following me if you haven't already, and of course, leave your thoughts for the world to see with a comment. In this video, I'm bringing you a press conference held by some victims of attempted intimidation through force. Now, this is a violation of the non-aggression principle. I've recently changed my stance on the non-aggression principle a little bit to include threats of force against those who have done nothing to hurt anyone else, damage or steal anyone else's property, or defraud anyone. When a person or people threaten violence, especially when they're displaying weapons of force to get others to submit to them against their will, this is intimidation. And that's not a good way to conduct yourself in general. Back on the 29th, members of the People's Rights in Washington State joined the daughter of a patient at Legacy Salmon Creek Medical Center in Salmon Creek, Washington, to assist their neighbors in doing what the Clark County Sheriff's Department failed to do. Number one, they failed to do the job they were paid with stolen money to do. They didn't uphold the Constitution. Number two, they didn't protect the patient's right to not be held against her will, nor do they protect the freedom of the patient's daughter and power of attorney access to the hospital in order to properly advocate for her mother. What they did do that night was assist a corporation with securing profits over the health and well-being of the people it serves. They assisted the hospital in overblowing the situation and creating a threat that didn't exist, and then the deputies themselves were the ones who used force on those who had assembled for the use of speech. At what point do free people have the right to use force in self-defense of our bodies and our freedom against these violations of the non-aggression principle? In response to being shown to be the cowardly corporate policy enforcers they are, the Clark County Sheriff's Department has asked a judge in Clark County to find probable cause and issue subpoenas to 4 people who were present the night of January 29th. I believe the hospital and the Sheriff's Department colluded to come up with this scheme to try to make criminals out of free people who had assembled to help fellow community members get this hospital to stop violating the non-aggression principle. I have a couple of public records requests out regarding this, so this is an ongoing story. But for now, here is a press conference held by the victims of intimidation of the state with its monopolized use of force.
Next, we have Estera coming up, and she will be speaking and sharing. More sharing.
Hello, everyone. My name is Estera, and I want to tell you all that what I've been witnessing and what I witnessed at the hospital is some scary times we are living in. Amen. Our current situation is getting scarier by the day. Amen. It is very alarming and very scary and dangerous to a free country. It reminds me of the horrible stories my family told me about growing up. In Ukraine, when I was born, my mom was more scared to give birth in the hospital, in the local hospital, than she was giving birth to me the first time because of the horrible stories that she heard that they did to the patients in the hospitals. Because again, back then in the hospital, nobody was allowed in. There were no advocates. There were no family members allowed. And when I was born, my mom was in the room with a lot of women for days, she said 8 to 10 days they were in the hospital, and the babies were not allowed to be with them. The nurses would take the babies and only bring them back for feedings. The moms would cry, "Please, leave the babies here with us. Why are you taking them?" "No, be quiet. It's not allowed." Yeah, it was very sad. My mom said that way too many women had their babies kidnapped by the hospitals. The nurses would come back and say, "Sorry, your baby died. You couldn't do anything about it." My mom was so scared not to lose me that secretly she brought a nude color string and tied it around my arm and hid it in between my rolls. So every time they would bring back the baby for feedings, my mom would cry, hoping when she opened up the swaddle that the string would still be there and I was still her baby, because of the business that was going on and the corruption that was going on in between the hospitals. Amen. They would sell these babies and tell the moms that they died, and you couldn't do anything about it. And on top of that, if you were a Christian, the treatment you got was horrible. They would tell you, "Oh, shut up, you Christian, pray to your God. Be quiet," when they would say, "Please, I'm in pain, give me something," or "Ouch, that hurts. Oh, be quiet, pray to your God, don't tell us what to do." And it was just, they would tell them, "You fat cows, stop having babies. You rabbits, stop having babies. When are you guys gonna learn your lesson?" These women, especially the Christian women, were terrified to have babies in the local hospitals. If you wanted decent care, you had to bribe. You had to pay the doctor under the table or the nurses to get a decent care and know that maybe they would treat you fairly. At one moment, my mom thought she had a chance to show my dad me out the window, because the husbands weren't allowed inside. Nobody was allowed to see what was happening behind those doors. So my dad waited all day just to see my mom and maybe a glimpse of me. And my mom thought she had a good chance, and she showed me. And one of the nurses caught her, and my mom almost got a beat down by the nurses. She said it was so horrible she couldn't wait to get out. And thank God, by the grace of God, she did finally get out. But she said those were the kind of stories you heard that you didn't want to end up in the hospital for.
My family lived to become witnesses against communism and dictatorship. There is so many similarities between what's going on today. People have been kept away from their family members in the name of COVID. But nurses can come and go day in and day out, and nobody says anything, and it's okay. But not for the families. They are not allowed because no one is held accountable. Just think about it. Anything can happen behind those closed doors because no family or advocate is allowed to keep those nurses and doctors accountable. All this inhumane treatments is pure communism. Amen. Wake up, America. Wake up, my fellow Americans. This is a communist takeover. And pure communism censorship, where when we use peaceful means to resolve, when we use peaceful means to resolve our abuse or overreach, we are told it's not allowed. COVID has been used to make prisoners of all of us. Right. From the patients to the inmates to the elderly and to the families on the outside. We are going to do what is right, and we are going to speak truth and righteousness. Amen. We will spread the light over all the darkness and corruptions. And with that being said, thank you very much to each and every one of you who came here today to stand with us and with Satin and her mom. Thank you, and God bless you. And here comes Satin.
Okay.
We love you, Satin.
You can do it.
Hello, everyone.
Love you, Gail. Yeah. Hi.
My name is Satin Meyer, and I am Gail Meyer's daughter. I would like to thank you all for coming today. I would also like to thank our friends that came to support my mother and I when her wishes to have her daughter present were not being granted that night at the hospital. I would like to make it clear what my intentions were at the hospital on January 29th. My obligation was to uphold my mother's wishes and care for her well-being and to make sure she was safe, as I am also her full-time caregiver. Even after I made multiple calls to the police when I first arrived and was told I was not allowed to be with my mother, they came only when the hospital called. After watching several other visitors walk through the doors of the emergency room to visit their loved ones, I attempted to follow them into the building where I was then assaulted by the police.
Go ahead, Satin.
This was not a mask issue that the hospital and police are claiming. It's truly a police cover-up for their poor choices to not stand with the people they have taken an oath to defend. Amen. It was shocking when the police did not come to stand with us, the people, but instead chose to stand in front of us as personal security guards for the hospital.
Multi-million-dollar corporation.
Now to learn that the Clark County Sheriff's Department think I belong in jail for 2 years for doing the right thing shocks me. Legacy Salmon Creek Hospital gave me mixed messages about my mother's care and left me in fear for her safety, and yet in the end they are claiming to be the victims in this matter. We will continue to stand for truth and justice and not be bullied into silence, and I thank you all for coming today and standing with us, and God bless you. So my mom is going to speak. She's got some words of her own to say.
My name is Gail Meyer. I wanted to say thank you to those who came to Legacy Hospital to help me get home to my daughter and granddaughter on 1/29/21. I do not remember very much about what happened, but I do remember wanting to be with my daughter while I was in the hospital. I love each and every one of you, and I'm pleased that you came to help me get me home. Clark County Sheriff's Department, please leave my daughter and her friends alone. They don't deserve this. They are innocent of any wrongdoing. They only came to help me. Thank you, and God bless you all.
Well, hello everyone. I gotta come out here a little bit. I don't mince words.
We love you, Kelly!
I didn't write this part, but I'm just gonna call it like I see it. This is political targeting.
Amen. Yes.
This has nothing to do with Sattenmeyer or Patrick Morris or Justin. Clark County Sheriff's Department, your beef is with me and you know it.
Woo! Woo!
And I'm calling on the prosecutor, if you choose to bring charges, to leave the three of them out of it. I've been standing for political prisoners for 5 years, and I know the extreme risk that is present in America when you exercise your First Amendment rights and you expose corruption.
Amen.
But the three of these individuals did not quite know what they were getting into when they started speaking out. And I beg of you to fight this battle with me. And I'll fight it in the courts, and I won't back down. But leave these individuals alone. And leave Justin Morris alone. He did nothing wrong that night. He had no idea what he was getting into when he went to stand for his neighbor and defend the innocent.
Amen.
So I plead with the judge when the charges are come before him today or later in the week to please leave these other three alone and deal with me. Let's also be honest, this has very little to do with anything in Clark County, and it's a political smear campaign to poison the jury pool, and it has mostly to do with me and with Ammon Bundy, and with those that this government is trying to demonize that they're afraid of because we stand up and we speak the truth.
Yeah. Exactly.
So let's just call this what it is.
Yeah.
This is unity.
Families should not be separated by hospitals. Amen? I've learned the road to justice for liberty and all is for justice and liberty for all is narrow, and few are willing to blaze its rocky and uncertain trail. My name is Kelly Stewart. I don't hide my face. I don't operate in the darkness, and I believe sunlight is the best disinfectant. And I don't believe we did anything wrong on January 29th. I'm a lifelong resident of Clark County, a wife of 21 years, married to a man who's also a lifelong resident of Clark County, and I'm not fleeing my home.
Good job, Kelly.
I'm the founder of People's Rights Washington, and I'm not afraid to associate with that name.
We the people.
I'm the co-founder of Neighbors United and the Underground Church. And I'm thankful for each and every one of you who are here today to stand with us.
Yes.
And at the end of this, we will go and turn ourselves in and see if warrants have been issued. America is currently hemorrhaging from billions of tiny paper cuts. And we have to identify the perpetrator if we are to stop the bleed. And I believe that the biggest enemy to the human race right now worldwide is fear.
Yes.
Fear is a spirit, the Bible tells us. God did not give us a spirit of fear, but a spirit of power, love, and of sound mind.
Amen. Come on.
I'll remind you, when Jesus entered the temple, he found his Father's house had been turned into a den of thieves. He drove out the money changers with whips, and he overturned tables, and he shamed those who violated their position and place of power.
Amen.
And I think if he walked the earth today, he might say that our hospitals used to be a place of healing for the sick, but it become, many of them, a den of thieves.
Amen. Exactly.
However, we will leave the whips and overturning of tables to him.
Amen.
I continue to hear groups and factions talk about the need for violence. They say the best way to guarantee you'll be heard by your government is to destroy buildings and damage private property. They say threats of force is how we need to get what we want, and I disagree.
Amen.
If you have to use threats and force to get what you want, you have already become the very giant you were fighting.
Amen.
Last May, I watched a video of Heidi St. John in May talk about her mother who had had a heart attack, went to the hospital, and then suffered from an infection and went back, and she sat in the car and grieved as they told her she couldn't go and be with her mom. She lived with her and she was her caregiver. She said she waited 2 days with no updates from the hospital, no medical updates, no understanding of what medication she'd been given, no understanding of how she was. I watched her video and I thought to myself, I couldn't do it. I couldn't sit there and do nothing. While the sick cry out for their advocates and are handed over to complete strangers with no representation from their family. I watched her video and I said out loud, not on my watch. Wasn't long until I started hearing about the nightmares of loved ones being left unattended in hospitals and nursing homes, receiving inadequate care, feeling isolated and afraid. I once again remembered the old saying, you can tell a lot by a nation by how it treats its most vulnerable. The unborn, the sick, the elderly, and the imprisoned. January 29th, Satin called me in tears saying her mom was being quarantined at Legacy Salmon Creek, and they would not let Satin in to be with her. Despite her entering that day with a mask on, despite her being the power of attorney, despite her being the full-time caregiver, they stated due to COVID policy, she now could not see her for 24 hours, even though she had been with her the night before until 4 o'clock in the morning at the hospital.
Yeah.
She was only there for a UTI and fluids. It was their choice that they admitted her. She had no signs and no signs of illness or COVID whatsoever, and the hospital agreed the night before not to COVID test her and not to try to vaccinate her. Satin begged the nurses for help. They explained her mother had traumatic brain injury from brain tumors. She has multiple seizures a day and she could not be quarantined for 24 hours without Satin being there to look after her. She was not only denied access and given many mixed concerning bits of information about what they had done and not done to her, but she later called back to talk to the staff while it was being recorded, Legacy. This is all on recording and we're not afraid of the truth. She was not only denied being able to discharge her mom, but they hung up on her numerous times. To say she was in fear for her mother's safety was an understatement. So what did she do? She called the sheriff for help.
Didn't show up. Not on our side.
Then her friends called the sheriff for help. I called 2 times and they told me personally, we're not responding to your calls today, Kelly. I asked for a civil standby and a deputy to come and stand with us because I was concerned that what the hospital was doing was illegal. And they refused to respond. So tell me, what are a people to do? What are a people to do? We want peaceful means, but what are a people to do when we're exhausting every peaceful means and we're not being heard? Friends and family showed up to exercise their First Amendment right, but most of all, our God-given obligation to love our neighbor as ourselves.
Amen. Yes.
Right. To do unto others as you would have them do to you.
Amen.
To be a voice for the voiceless. To stand in the gap for the weak and the unheard.
Amen.
Policy should never trump moral obligation to do what is right.
Yes.
So tell me, if you were a patient left in that situation, what would you want your daughter to do?
Call Kelly.
Yes, Kelly.
If I'm not in here. Many of us came together that night to do our part to make sure a peaceful resolution was obtained. It was a very avoidable situation, and it was created by the hospital and then enabled by our Clark County Sheriff's Department, which was incredibly disappointing. The entire situation would have never occurred had the hospital honored their commitment to Satin when she had arrived and dropped her mom off, which was that she could come back and visit as long as she was the same visitor the whole time her mom was there. The sheriff could have avoided the situation by escorting Satin in to see her mom. Surely if they could enter with a mask on and it was safe, then so could her daughter. Instead, we were demonized by the media. They said we all had gas masks and we were armed. I didn't see a gun, and come on, does anybody in our group own a gas mask? I mean,
I wouldn't wear it if I had one.
We would have been wearing it when they maced us if we owned a gas mask, you guys. Come on.
Exactly.
The media lied, but the narrative was actually put out by the Clark County Sheriff's Department.
Lies.
And now criminal charges have been sought against us. Our only goal and concern was Gail having safe access to her daughter to be cared for while she was in the hospital. Thankfully, the hospital did eventually do what was right and discharge her. To think that we would ever tolerate handing our sick or injured and elderly over to complete strangers and walk away trusting that their care will be sufficient is absurd. Yes. Humans are fallible. Humans get impatient. Humans who are paid money to care for our loved ones are wholly inadequate to be the sole advocate for our sick.
That's right.
Especially when a loved one is capable of being present. Never should we be told a nurse or a police officer can wear a mask and be safe with a patient, but the family and loved ones cannot. Do what is right and let the consequences follow. If we are to be prosecuted and they attempt to make us spend time in jail for defending the weak and exposing medical kidnap, so be it. If the judge signs the warrants this week and the Clark County prosecutor brings the charges, the truth of that night will be fully exposed.
Amen. Exactly.
And I do not believe a jury of my peers will let me see one day in jail.
That's right.
Amen. That's right.
While I have lost faith in my courts, I have not lost faith in my people.
We love you.
So thank you for standing with us and for reaching out to Clark County Sheriff's Department and the prosecutor's office with letters of support. The road from here on out might be smooth and it might get really bumpy. Whatever the future holds, we'll face it together with courage and faith and truth.
Amen.
Amen.
For those who have suffered from being separated from your loved ones at a hospital, a nursing home, or a prison, because the prison are vulnerable and they have been forgotten and they are our people. My heart goes out to you, but know that you're not alone. And the pain you feel, understand that others are using that to take steps to correct these dangerous policies across this nation. I'll leave you with this statement from Edward Snowden that I read this morning. Our rights are not gifts, they are prizes that are won. And that win won't happen without you. That won't happen simply because you believe something. That will only happen when you stand for something.
Amen.
If you want to see change, you have to make things change. And that change begins with you. It's choosing to not look away and not look past someone who does the wrong thing. It's standing up to say you don't agree. It's trying to peaceably change an outcome, even in small ways, and recognizing you truly do have the power. I don't care how small you are, and I don't care how isolated you are. To the people near you and the world around you, in your community and in your space, you can make a difference.
Amen.
And I believe that there's a very good chance, Gail, they put her on oxygen for no reason. They said they tested her, then they didn't test her. They isolated her. I believe she was a prime target for some really bad stuff to happen there that night, especially with her inability to remember things. She got out and told us they tested her. An hour later, she said they didn't test her. This woman was left completely defenseless in that hospital until we got her released.
Yeah. Yeah.
you can make a difference. But the only time you make a difference is when you make a choice to change things.
Amen.
The world isn't asking you the world is asking you right now. Click OK to continue.
No.
For me, I'm done clicking.
Amen.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Gotta take care of our elderly.
Amen.
Patrick, come on up.
I actually wrote this really long, impassioned speech with my wife.
Meet the mic.
Closer. Almost eat it. Okay. So, sorry. I wrote this long, impassioned speech. My wife reviewed it and said, maybe now's not the time for that kind of speech, considering we don't know what's going to happen. Which, unfortunately, in our criminal justice system, everything you say can and absolutely will be used against you.
Yep.
Regardless of what you're fighting for, regardless of what you're doing, they will always find something to get you on.
Yep.
So my statement is a lot shorter. But I just wanted to publicly thank everybody who is showing support for Gail and Satin today. It's absolutely a trying time for them. So anything we can do to help one another is something that we should always do. But I am without a doubt thankful that Gail was able to be released without complications. My name is Patrick Morris. I am the father of 6, almost 7 children. Maybe I'll make that 10 someday. Like, why end at 7, right? But I was lucky enough to get a taste of pepper spray that night. I've never tasted pepper spray. Personally, it didn't affect me all that much. But I guess maybe I'm blessed in that way. But it is an absolute privilege and an honor to stand for health, safety, and freedom for those who are unable to stand for themselves.
Thank you.
I honestly don't know Gail and Satin all that well. However, when I heard that they needed help, I knew that even the smallest thing I could do would ease the burden on someone else.
Yes.
Ezra Taft Benson, who I absolutely adore, and who was a prophet of my church, said, "To the patriots I say this, take that long, eternal look. Stand up for freedom no matter what the cost. Stand up and be counted. It can help to save your soul and maybe even your country." And one of my favorite scriptures is Matthew 25:40, which states, "Verily I say unto you, inasmuch as ye have done it unto one of the least of these my brethren, ye have done it unto me."
Yes.
And I consider Gail one of the least in numerous ways. And so as we were serving her that night, we were serving our God. And there is no greater cause than serving God.
Yes.
So I just want to leave with this. Medical kidnapping is real.
Yes.
Amen.
It is a massive industry. And I was just looking up statistics for medical kidnapping. There is approximately 1.2 million people in the system, and there's virtually no accountability.
None.
There was, I don't remember the name of the woman, but she was responsible for hundreds of people, and she has a criminal record.
Wow.
People have died under her watch, and assets have been seized. People have gone into the system wealthy and left with nothing.
Wow.
So medical kidnapping is absolutely real, and an unchecked government will exercise their unlimited power on you or me as they see fit at any time. Freedom is absolutely a gift from God.
Amen.
Anything we can do to support the cause of freedom is something that we should always be anxiously engaged in doing.
Yes.
So I hope and I absolutely pray that no one ever has a loved one in the hospital against their will.
Yep.
Thank you so much for coming out and supporting Gail and Satin.
Thank you.
So I want to first say that contrary to what Kelly said, I did know I was getting into, and I love it. This is the greatest feeling in the world, to be here with you guys, to be standing up for what we know to be true. We know it. We can't lie to ourselves. We're not violent. We don't hate people. I'll stand and help you whether you love the government or you love Trump or you love Biden. I don't care. You're just a person just like me.
Good job.
And we are here in this time, and it's time to connect.
Yes.
To unite with people. We don't have time to sit around and care whether who you voted for, or care what you wear, or care what you don't wear. Hey, we're just people. And in a good and righteous society, there's no left and right and in the middle. There's just people. And because of that, we're being demonized. We're labeled, we're all these things, but we're not. I went to the hospital to protect Gail and to help her and to serve her. Because it's my duty.
Yes, sir.
It is my duty. And if I don't do that, and if I would have heard about the opportunity to help her and I would have turned it down, that means that I failed. That means that I turned down an opportunity to do what I was told.
Yes.
To do, by God, my assignment. And if I fail that assignment, what do I have to live for? Why am I here? What am I standing for? To see the next movie that comes out? No. No. So I just want to say that it's amazing that you guys came out here. It's amazing what we're doing. And don't give up hope. We are against a monster in many ways. But that's what we have to do. So, thank you.
Thank you. Yes, Anna.
God did it.
Good job, Mama.
No, God did it.
God.
So I want to just bring Joey up here.
Yeah.
Thank you, Joey, for coming and standing with us. And I just want to say thank you all again for coming and being here with us.
Can you hear me? Oh, yeah. First of all, we got to get rid of the sheriff. Yeah. He's got to go. He's been a problem for a long time soon, but he's got to go, and this wouldn't even be an issue if we had a sheriff that actually respected the Constitution. Is that right? That's a problem that we have. We've fallen asleep at the wheel, and we allow these people. He's run unopposed twice, okay? Completely unacceptable. We need a sheriff that will, not only would these people not be criminally charged, he'd be down there protecting us and making sure, investigating the hospital for kidnapping her. Is that right? Because anybody should have a right. If they say they want to leave the hospital, they have a right to leave right then and right there. Exactly. It's that simple. And we need a sheriff that's going to protect us and protect that right. There's a reason why they're doing this. Boots on the ground is very powerful, ladies and gentlemen. Yes. It is very powerful, and that's why they're trying to arrest these 4 people, because they want to be able to get away with whatever they want without any opposition at all. That's their intent. They're trying to put fear in your heart, and like Kelly said, fear is not from God, okay? Fear is meant to oppress you, to control you, to keep you in your house. I want you to think about this. Like you guys saw, this isn't the first time they tried to arrest Kelly Stewart, obviously. Last summer, because of boots on the ground, you had Jonathan Young that spent the whole summer trying to arrest her for going out there and opposing him and opposing the lockdown. I'm telling you, this is about the future and what they intend to do here in your own community, okay? These lockdowns are going to get worse and worse, and they're going to use COVID to not just medical kidnapping, but to throw people in jail, and they don't want the opposition, okay? They don't want the boots on the ground. They don't want this right here, and that's what it's about, and that's it right there. I want to remind you where our power comes from, okay? Our power comes from, number one, it comes from God, and it comes from each other. Okay? This is where our power comes from, united, being able to fight for each other, being able to protect each other. They want to be able to pick people off individually in hopes that no one will back them up, okay? But we're not going to give that to them. They made a huge mistake. They made a huge mistake trying to criminally charge these 4 people. It's going to backfire on them. Is that right? It's going to backfire. The community will come together. We will fight for it. And I'm here to say, I'm here to declare, none of them will see one day of jail. Not one day. No matter what it takes. This is the church. This is the church. Okay? It is not inside the 4 walls. It is not inside a building. It is out on the streets. It is fighting for justice. It is fighting for truth. It is fighting for freedom. Can I get an amen? This is the thing is that, like I said, during the lockdown, we had all the pastors and preachers just shut down. They just closed down like that, okay? The church is being courageous, right? It is not listening to that fear that they're trying to instill in each and every single one of us. Everything through this lockdowns, everything about this COVID, all of it is fear. Why is it, do you think, they don't want us to believe in God? Because if you believe in God, you're not going to be afraid of a fake virus, right? You're going to believe in things that are more important, that are bigger than you. That's why they want to shut down these churches. But they will never shut this down, ever. You have to be committed.
Be strong and courageous.
Amen. Be strong and courageous. This is going to take commitment, okay? I saw Kelly Stewart fight for Kelly Carroll last summer, okay? She was very committed. We need to be just as committed for these 4. It's going to take a lot of work. It's going to take a lot of time. It's going to take a lot of boots on the ground. It's going to take emails. It's going to take phone calls. It's going to be doing videos, sharing as much as you can, spreading the word, talking to your neighbors, okay? Because this, I'm just guessing, if they do go through with this is going to be one of many events, okay? One of many events, boots on the ground. The thing is, though, the commitment that it takes to shape your community, okay? The future of your community depends on moments like this. Because what we allow them to do to these 4 people, okay, that determines what's going to happen in the future of this community. If we put our foot down and we say, hell no, you're not going to put any of them in jail, not one day, that pushes them back, and that impacts the way that your community is formed and the way it is built, okay? This is your community, right? It's yours. No one else is going to help you. Us. That's it. Us. Do you see one politician here today? No. You won't see any, because most of them are cowards, okay? They run and hide, okay? But like I said, the power is in each and every single one of you. We got this. We got this, right? They went down there, they did the right thing, okay? They stood up for a lady who wanted to leave the hospital. They stood up, okay? That's what we need in our community. We need more people to do that. They don't need to go to jail, they need an award, okay? So I just want to say that I'm committed, okay? Whatever you guys need, whatever you need from me, I'm committed. I'm here to give everything that I got to make sure that justice prevails. So God bless you guys and thank you.
All right, let's go turn ourselves in. So our charges were, they've been doing a lot of homework. My report was 130 pages long. Not good, right? Full of lies. So they filled out probable cause arrest warrants and turned them over supposedly this morning to Superior Court to see if they could get the signatures and come pick us up. So they come pick us up. The warrants were signed. We're here. We're ready to face our accuser and fight this battle because it's a just battle. Yeah. And we don't have any regrets. And if they take bail again tomorrow, I'm going to do it again. everything to apologize for. I can't flee out and I do it again.
No apology.
So, if you guys want to follow the four of us back to the sheriff's department, we just want to make ourselves known and find out if
Thank you for supporting my work. Independent thought and journalism are under attack. If you want to fight censorship and promote independent thinking and freedom, we need your support. It's not just me. All truth-minded content creators are getting pushed off of the most popular and censorship-loving social media platforms. You can support me by making a donation of cryptocurrency. I have multiple wallets listed in the description of every video. If you still love your international banksters' fiat currency, I have links to PayPal, Venmo, and Cash App listed as well. If you're unable to donate in that fashion, consider signing up for LBRY, 3Speak, Hive, Steemit, DTube, or Minds using the links below, and earn some crypto for yourself and me by using my affiliate links. Then, you and I can both be earning decentralized cryptocurrency for you simply watching and interacting with my content.